If you were one of the people that were disappointed by the performance of Starfield or Baldur's Gate 3 on deck, then don't worry, because finally the Steam Deck is getting some love too. Fresh on the heels of the biggest update ever landing in the preview channel, Valve is not resting on their laurels, and the Steam Deck has more big news for us this week. Valve released a few new updates, including a feature that no one is talking about. A couple big games got announced. One huge expansion impressed us with its performance on deck. I'm sure you know which game I'm talking about. And Valve did an awesome interview and keynote over at the Tokyo Game Show that gave us a little more information of what they're planning for the Steam Deck over the next few years. I think it's great that Valve has now had a strong presence over at TGS both this year and last, and not only Japan, but all of Asia has continued to be such a strong area of growth for Steam. Apparently, simplified Chinese is now neck and neck with English as the most used language for Steam users, so it is clear that Valve is making the international audience a priority. But yeah, more to the point, Valve said that over the last 5 years, Japan has been one of the fastest growing major markets on Steam. There are now millions of players, and PC gaming in Japan is experiencing a fundamental shift, according to Valve. At the same time that the player base continues to grow, games that are made in Japan are seeing more and more success around the globe, so much so that 1 out of every 5 titles in the 2023's top seller list comes from Japan, including titles like Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, Tekken, Street Fighter, and Armored Core. Valve also made a point to credit the Steam Deck for a portion of that growth, noting that the Steam Deck exemplifies some of the many benefits of PC gaming, like the fact that you only need to buy a game once to own it forever, not to mention the fact that online play is free without the need for a subscription. Finally, Valve said that they would be meeting with Japanese developers and publishers at TGS to ensure that they had what they needed to publish on Steam and localize those games for different areas around the world. As of now, Japanese developers like Capcom, Bandai Namco, and Square have done a great job of supporting the Steam Deck, and I really do hope to see that continue with efforts like this. While Valve was over at Tokyo Game Show, they also did an interview with CNBC that was both enlightening and also a lot more of the same. Let me explain. They talked about how the PC gaming experience more generally does have some challenges, like having to choose what you buy and what you build, and finding the right level of configuration for you, but that PC gaming also has tremendous upsides, like the stuff I mentioned earlier about only buying a game once or not having to pay for online play. Then they added that the Steam Deck aims to distill all the upsides while making it easy to get into PC gaming. And that all sounds great, right? Certainly like stuff we've heard before. Then the CNBC rep asked, what makes Steam Deck special? What makes it stand out from the competition? And the answer was interesting because Pierre-Luc from Valve said that SteamOS specifically is what gives the Steam Deck a consoleized experience. It still lets you use the deck as a PC, but it's a console experience first. And that's funny because recently NerdNest did a poll asking which Steam Deck feature is S tier, and many of us, including myself, agreed that SteamOS is probably the most essential feature on the Steam Deck, and with good reason. Like Pierre-Luc says, it is the key to providing a consoleized experience. But that's not the part I meant was most interesting. The next thing Pierre-Luc said was this, quote, obviously it's something we'd like to work with hardware manufacturers so they can adopt SteamOS in the future, end quote. So this, right here, on the one hand, it is incredibly reassuring to hear that they would like to work with hardware manufacturers to adopt SteamOS, but it's also not the first time they've said this. I admit that this is not an easy problem to solve, but I'd also be lying if I said I wasn't getting a little impatient with either a general purpose release of SteamOS or at least a closer partnership with a hardware manufacturer like Asus, Lenovo, GPD, or Ayaneo. Specifically, I would love to see a version of SteamOS that is fully featured for an APU like the AMD 7840U. I want to be able to do the same things I can do on the Steam Deck, including adjusting TDP and reducing GPU clock speed, and additionally, I'd like to see Valve work closely with a hardware manufacturer like Ayaneo so that the special inputs on an Ayaneo device are recognized and mappable from within SteamOS. Take the Ayaneo Kun, for example. It would be great if I could wipe Windows on that handheld and install SteamOS in such a way that allowed me to map the 2 trackpads and the gyro and the LC and RC buttons. There are some other distros like Chimera and Bakelite OS that aim to provide a Steam Deck-like experience on other platforms, and I'm incredibly thankful for those. But Valve has been promising to work with hardware manufacturers since before the release of the Steam Deck, and we've seen virtually no progress on that front. I don't believe these are empty promises from Valve, but it's sort of like how Bethesda announced Elder Scrolls 6 before they even began production of the game. There's no doubt Elder Scrolls 6 will be released one day, but they probably should have waited to tell us about it. Finally, for the CNBC interview, they asked Valve what's coming next, what kind of iterations or advancements could be coming for the Steam Deck, potentially alluding to the possibility of a Steam Deck 2. In fact, the interviewer points out that the Steam Deck has had trouble running recent high-end games like Starfield and Baldur's Gate 3 and asks if the Steam Deck is gonna need some more horsepower soon. First of all, Pierre Lou points out that the success of the Steam Deck hasn't slowed down and that they are first and foremost working on building on what the current Steam Deck already has. That means more software updates in addition to SteamOS 3.5, and it also means that they're looking at the supply chain side of things too, building a retail presence and making the Steam Deck available worldwide. Of course, just like the promise of working with hardware manufacturers to adopt SteamOS, this is something I would have expected some more progress on by now, but Valve clearly has a lot on their plate. In any case, and more to the point, Pierre Lou also says that they see the current performance target of the Steam Deck as something that is stable for a couple of years to come. This is something that Valve has said before, essentially telling us that a Steam Deck 2 wouldn't show up until at least 2025. He says that the Steam Deck is really a sweet spot and has the ability to play all experiences from this new generation of titles. To be clear, those are his words almost verbatim. These are not my words, and I'll leave a link to the interview in the description so you can hear for yourself. I think where you stand on performance of the Steam Deck is very much a subjective matter based on the comments I've seen in previous videos. I've seen both sides of the coin. I've seen people that think the Steam Deck is so underpowered as to be obsolete, and I've literally seen people say that they play Starfield on the Steam Deck exclusively. Obviously, everyone has different needs, but I will say this. I think one of the benefits of the Steam Deck is that it is a single target that developers can aim for, and I believe that releasing another Steam Deck too soon would dilute that benefit considerably, so I'm okay with waiting until 2025 for a Steam Deck 2. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you want to wait until 2025, or do you want to see that a lot sooner? Moving on from TGS, I wanted to give you all some big updates on SteamOS 3.5 that you should be aware of. The first is about undervolting. In my first video about the new SteamOS update, I mentioned that the patch notes alluded to the newfound ability to undervolt, but that I didn't see the new option in the BIOS. At the time, I wasn't aware of anyone else that could see that option either. I perused Discord, Reddit, and asked my friends, and no one saw any options for undervolting. Well, that has changed a bit now. First of all, in one of the comments on that video, I was told that this is a part of BIOS 118, and apparently when you first update to SteamOS 3.5, you actually have BIOS 116. So if you did want BIOS 118, then you'd need to go to the main channel or something like that. But what I did see was a new thread in the Steam Deck Tricks subreddit where they show the undervolt settings while using SteamOS 3.5. Now these are available in the BIOS as shown here, and if you go to the advanced section and scroll to under power control, even with power control set to auto, you'll see three values: CPU voltage offset, GPU voltage offset, and SoC voltage offset. Continuing in that thread, one person did say that they've seen a lot of people using -30 as the voltage for each of these settings, and that seems to have worked for a lot of people. Personally, I'm still unable to see this screen. I'm not sure if I did something wrong, but you may now be able to see these settings if you are on the preview channel and you're using SteamOS 3.5. So check it out if you do want to attempt undervolting. Of course, do consider watching that video from CryoByte about undervolting. I'll paste the link in the description. That's going to help you understand the risks of undervolting and the benefits. So yeah, check that out. Also, a big follow-up to my SteamOS 3.5 video is some evidence that emulation performance has in fact gotten better on this latest version of SteamOS. There is this channel called Project Eden. This YouTuber has been doing deep dives on Steam Deck performance for emulated games. For example, there's a video out there for every single Spider-Man tie-in game on the deck, and most of these videos, they'll do comparisons against different platforms, including the Xbox, the GameCube, the PlayStation, PSP, PS3, and Xbox 360. With this process, he's gotten to see how well the emulators perform on the Steam Deck, which emulators in particular may be problems for the Steam Deck, and which games may be even worse when emulating on our favorite handheld. And what he found throughout this was that Dolphin was a really bad culprit for performance on the Steam Deck. It would have really bad and inconsistent frame timing, in addition to some input lag. So he wanted to make a really big video that dives deep into whether or not SteamOS 3.5 improves the performance of Dolphin on the Steam Deck, and what he found was in fact that yes, it has. He retested Time Splitters 2, SSX 3, Burnout 2, and Ridge Racer 2. And I'll give you an example using SSX3. When he first tested SSX3, he found that the GameCube version could not beat the PS2 or Xbox version when being emulated on the Steam Deck. The reason for that was that in addition to the lousy frame pacing, there were just these hard drops to 30 FPS, even though the performance would otherwise stick to 60 FPS. In any case, at the end of his initial test, he gave it a 7 out of 10. So when he revisited the game, all of the erratic frame rate problems were completely gone. It never had hard drops to 30 FPS. The frame pacing was no longer desynchronizing during gameplay, and so he gave the game a new rating with a 9 out of 10. All of the other games he looked at were very similar. They all improved. Time Splitters 2 in particular, he gave that a 6 out of 10 on the first go round and ended up giving that a 10 out of 10. So it really is now the best way to play Time Splitters 2 on the Steam Deck. Of course, I am leaving a link to this video in the description. Definitely check it out if you want to see how much SteamOS 3.5 has improved performance of emulators, specifically Dolphin, on the Steam Deck. And another big update for the Steam Deck is the new gyro to mouse mode, and that is going to replace the old gyro as mouse mode. For this, I recommend a video by a channel called Flickstick Videos. That video showcases how to best use this new update, so of course I'm going to link that in the description. But just so you know, this new update is only available in Steam Beta, and one of the most important changes is how you can configure your sensitivity. It makes it really easy to find the exact value if you use a site called mousesensitivity.com. So if I go to that site and I look up a game like Proteus, I can go up here and set the units to counts instead of either inches or centimeters. I can go down here to convert from and select Proteus, and then I can go here where it says sensitivity 1 and put in the sensitivity, the in-game sensitivity of Proteus, which by default is 1.43. If I set this to config file over here under the location, then finally down here I get a value of 2,517 counts. So now when I go into the Steam input settings for either gyro or flickstick, I can set the pixels per angle value to 2,517, and that's going to make it so that if I rotate my analog stick 15 degrees, the person in game rotates 15 degrees. If I rotate the Steam Deck 15 degrees, then that's going to rotate the person 15 degrees. And then if you want it to be more sensitive than that or less sensitive than that, you can change the gyro sensitivity. This value is going to act as a multiplier. So if you set it to 2x, then it's going to rotate twice as fast. If you set it to 0.5x, then it's going to rotate half as fast. In addition to these new settings, gyro overall is massively improved. It's just much smoother. And also there is now the ability to enable momentum with gyro. So you can sort of snap to the right and it's going to rotate your characters to the right continuously until the friction sort of slows it down all the way. Anyway, this is a really nice update that really improves gyro. So if you are already a gyro head on the Steam Deck, then definitely give it a shot. And if you're not, then maybe try it on one of your favorite first-person shooters. This may be a good time to see if gyro is for you. Next up, you may have heard that EA is expanding their own EA anti-cheat, and according to Liam from Gaming on Linux, this spells bad news for Steam Deck and Linux when it comes to EA games. Apparently, they made an announcement that Battlefield 2042 is moving over to their EA anti-cheat. Apparently, FIFA 23 and the upcoming EA Sports FC 24 are also using this EA anti-cheat. It's a kernel mode anti-cheat and anti-tamper solution, so basically it is not working with Linux and Steam Deck. More importantly, it's likely that EA is going to continue using this on more new games and even maybe already established games like Apex Legends. I feel like with their EA launcher, EA has really had quite a hit and miss relationship with the Steam Deck. The performance of their games is pretty good on the Steam Deck, but they keep making updates that break compatibility. Those breaks often get resolved, usually by Valve, but the fact that it keeps happening means that EA really doesn't seem to particularly care about the Steam Deck, and this is just another example of that. So I don't really expect ongoing compatibility and support for EA games on the Steam Deck, especially these multiplayer ones. And the next update that should be relevant to the Steam Deck is AMD FSR 3 is here. Now, to be clear, on the titles where frame generation is available, it seems to not be working on the Steam Deck whatsoever. So as of right now, FSR 3 is providing no benefits to any Steam Deck titles. However, it is providing benefits to the ROG Ally. Game Tech Planet published a video that showcases gameplay for Forspoken and Immortals of Aveum, and it does show that there is significant improvement with the frame rate on those games when frame generation is enabled. Specifically, he showcases the benchmark of Forspoken, and you can see even right from there how much smoother the game looks when frame generation is enabled. He points out that there's been sort of the myth that frame generation isn't helpful for games with frame rates under 60 FPS. That myth definitely led me to believe that FSR 3 wasn't going to be impactful for the Steam Deck, ROG Ally, or really any other handheld. I'm happy to say that Game Tech Planet proved me wrong here, and I'm looking forward to seeing FSR 3 frame generation work on the Steam Deck, and I'm looking forward to more games supporting this new feature. On the subject of video games, we did get an announcement for Horizon Forbidden West coming to PC. Now, we have been expecting this for some time. It originally released on the PS5 in February of 2022, so even though we don't have an exact release date, it does look like this is going to appear on the PC about 2 years removed from the original release date. Now, this is pretty consistent for Sony. A lot of their ports to PC have been approximately 2 years later. I would say the only exception so far is The Last of Us Part 1, and that one's interesting because it is a remaster of a game that originally released on PlayStation systems much earlier. But yeah, one reason we saw this coming, in addition to just PlayStation being consistent about porting games to PC, is that this was included in the Nvidia leak from a couple of years ago. That Nvidia leak has proven to be correct time and time again. Ghost of Tsushima was another game on that list, and you know, we are well over 2 years now since the release date. We're about 2.5 years, so hopefully we'll see it soon, but perhaps we won't actually see it until Ghost of Tsushima 2 land on the PS5. According to some insiders, that game is pretty much ready. I don't know, I guess we'll see. The one game, of course, that was not on that Nvidia leak is the one game that everyone is waiting for, Bloodborne. So yeah, unfortunately, it seems like Bloodborne isn't coming over to PC anytime soon. Of course, Sony, I would love to be proven wrong. Alright, so there was this one other game announcement that really got me excited. I think you'll understand when I tell you how I found out about this game coming to Steam. So here I am, doing everything I can, holding on to what I am. You know what I'm talking. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, guys. It's coming to Steam. It's out tomorrow. I do already own this game on Epic. I've sort of been procrastinating playing it. I would play here and there, but I've just really been hoping it would come to Steam, especially because it's perfect for the Steam Deck. I can take advantage of the cloud saves. I can have the shader cache. So yeah, I'm really excited about this coming to Steam and the Steam Deck. What about you? Are you going to pick this up tomorrow? Let me know in the comments. One more game I should mention, of course, is Phantom Liberty. That finally came out, and it really feels like the redemption arc for Cyberpunk 2077 is completed now. And to be clear, it is playing very well in the Steam Deck. There were a lot of people that were worried because the recommended specs were increased for this game. So yeah, people were wondering whether or not the Steam Deck would still be able to play this game well. Thankfully, all of our fears have been allayed. This game still plays great on the deck. It's the best it's ever been, so if you haven't picked up Cyberpunk yet, now's your chance. Alright, there's a lot I didn't get to this week. Let me rapid fire some things for you. The Legion Go is now available for pre-order. It's also available at Micro Center, so not just Best Buy. You can check it out. We are now in the era of big handhelds with the Iron Neo Kun at 8.4 inches and the TJD T101 at 10 inches. Both of these big handhelds got reviews from Retro Game Core, Taki Udon, ETA Prime, so definitely check those videos out. And Valve has been really busy. They dropped the Steam VR 2.0 beta. They dropped Counter-Strike 2. There has been some controversy about that. And there are also some really big game events happening. So Shmup Fest is going on right now on Steam. Realms Deep is an event that's always fun. That took place this weekend. That's an event that's dedicated to boomer shooters. So we actually got an update on Celico. That game is being released in May 2024. I can't tell you how excited I am about that one. Finally, October Next Fest is upon us. That starts next week. I think you guys know how much I love Next Fest. It's a chance to try demos for upcoming games, so definitely stay on the lookout for that one, which starts on October 9th. All right, I think it's been a jam-packed week. Deck Gang out. Goodbye.